This is Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets.
Hi everybody, Cheryl Kay from Unleashed. Today I have a guest with me, Behaviorist, Joel Silverman. Hi Joel, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
I'm wonderful, and I thought we would talk about, and I know you wanted to mention, bringing a new pet, a young pet into the home, and the best ways to try to train them. Of course, people want them to be housebroken immediately, and depending on where you bring them from, whether it's a shelter or, God forbid, a breeder, they don't. My grandmother used to train our dogs that we brought home from school, like I'd go to school and I'd come back and the dog was paper trained.
Right.
Can you do that?
It's well, you were saying, it was kind of funny because something you had said, which was kind of funny. People want their dogs to be housebroken. People not only want their dogs to be housebroken, but they want everything. There are a lot of people that have never really had a dog before, and they think for some reason that a dog, they want this, they want that, they want everything to be perfect. And, we're not perfect, and neither are dogs, and especially dogs that come from animal shelters or humane societies. We've got baggage, and they're going to have some baggage anyways as well, whether you adopt bring a puppy in or an adult dog. But I always tell people from the very beginning, when you bring a new puppy into the home, it doesn't matter the age of the puppy, and it doesn't matter the age. It doesn't matter if somebody tells you, hey, the dog is housebroken. Bank on the odds the dog's not going to be housebroken, and you always want to start from scratch, with a clean slate. That's the first thing. And then planning, before you bring the dog home, I just think there's a lot that goes into it, in the fact that, and I'm talking to somebody too, talking to you, obviously, that's very knowledgeable about this type of thing, but planning things out, planning it out, making sure that before you bring the puppy home, you got the right puppy for the family. You got the right breed. Or, if it is a purebred dog that you got from an animal shelter, humane society, and it's got some certain breeds in it, learn about the breed. It may not have a lot of those characteristics that you want, and understand that many of the dogs in animal shelters and humane societies are there because they were returned not only one, but two times, because they weren't the right dog. So you want to make sure, most importantly, you get the right dog for you and the family, the right puppy. That's number one. And then the big thing is when you do bring the puppy home, whether you're introducing a puppy to a dog that's existing in the home, or another dog that is just an adult dog, and you're, introducing that new dog, that new adult dog to your dog that's an existing dog in the home, that introduction, and I'm sure you've seen this before as well, that introduction can make it or break it. It really can. And if you try to do a shortcut and just throw them together, and you don't know how these dogs are going to react. And it's important to always give them, I always tell people, give them the benefit of the doubt. You always want to take it, super, super slow. And the first thing I would do, that I recommend people do, is when you bring a puppy home, put the puppy on the leash. And what I kind of like to do, and it's just not only a puppy, but, right, even an adult dog, but bring the other dog in the front yard in a neutral area, front yard, on leashes in the front yard. And kind of what I do is I just tell, I teach in my dog training certification courses. This is what I teach. I say, take a walk about 50 yards, and don't let the puppies necessarily smell each other, but let them just smell the air. Have them about maybe 5 or 6 feet apart. Walk 50 yards. Let them kind of smell as the wind kind of blows. They get a chance to smell. Maybe they could smell each other once or twice along the way. As you come back, maybe knock it down to about 3 feet. As you walk back, when you stop near the house, whatever, you can stop, let them smell each other. Then walk again, maybe a little bit closer, only about a foot apart. Again, you're walking with them. You come back. You do that a couple times. Once you're okay with that, then what I would do is put them in the backyard together, let them smell each other. They're going to go to the bathroom, things like that. Let them kind of go through that. And then from that perspective, then what I would do is I would still do, when you are bringing a puppy in the house, I really recommend using, have a little puppy on a leash, not letting the puppy just roam like crazy, because it's going to,
right,
you're going to follow the puppy all over the house. It's going to, oh yeah, exactly. It's going to smell. It's going to go to the bathroom. And, so I just tell people, you don't want to keep the puppy on leash, but the other dog is not on leash, but the puppy is. But, you've got, now what you do is you basically progress from there, because the existing dog is not on a leash. And then And then down the road, over the course of the next couple of days, whatever, you can start letting the leash drag a little bit with the puppy, and then eventually turn the puppy loose.
Well, I just want to interrupt you one moment. When you bring them in the house and they're both on the leash, some dogs, have an aggressive temperament as far as food. They're aggressive with their food for whatever their reasons are.
Right.
So let's take food out of the mix. Maybe they were out and they're excited because, dogs definitely are social. That's
right.
for sure. Whether they like the one, just like people, we don't like everybody we meet. So let's take food out of the mix. How about 2 bowls of water on the ground? That's not food. Right. I don't know,
Right. Exactly. No. You bring up a very, very, very good point. And that is, it's not to say that all dogs are this way, but you bring up a very, very good point. And in some situations, when people start bringing food out right away, and this is something I would not do with these 2 dogs together at all, and I would just basically not introduce, at least this first, the first minute or 2 or the first, hour when they're together, you just don't want to do that because, like I say, you run the risk of the, it's not the puppy, but you run the risk of the existing dog becoming possessive or whatever over the food. So again, I would just try to make it as natural as possible. And one of the reasons we keep also the puppy on, we're running the same problem right now with my situation, not running the same problem, but we're avoiding the problem because, I've got a 15-year-old dog and I've got a new puppy that I brought in the house. And the puppy wants to play crazy with the 15-year-old dog, and, everybody has the same story. And so what you want to do is you need to respect that 15-year-old dog. You need to separate the dogs, okay, or put the puppy on the leash. Because if the puppy is 12 weeks old, you need to let the puppy do what it naturally wants to do. It wants to play. So, and the first thing I would do, and this is something that I've done with this little guy, he's 12 weeks old, and that is the very first thing I do is I find, I've got toys and everything ready here. I find which toys he likes. So we're always able to redirect the dog onto the toys, okay, when the dog does start mouthing us or when the dog starts getting crazy with the other dog. If you can take those toys and make those toys something that's very, very special to them, they really want to go after and play with, that can work in a really, really good way. And that's something that I teach all of my students when they go through my courses, and something I'm actually doing myself with Oliver, this little guy.
Oh, that's a cool name. So how big will he get?
He'll be about 12 pounds. He's about 5.5 pounds right now. And he's a cool little guy. When people watch me in the future down the road, and we do the videos when I go on the road and things like that, personal appearances, they'll see him with me. And but he's my new guy, and he's a small one, but he's got a great personality. And
see, that's key with animals.
Absolutely.
That is the key.
Yeah,
Forget, whether they
that's
shed, their size. They have to have a good nature. Not every animal does.
No, you're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. And that's why I wrote my book. What color is your dog? I've written a couple. I think we talked about this before.
Right.
But your dog is one of 5 colors: red, orange, yellow, green, or blue. And that's the whole point, is the fact that you need to work with your dog based upon your dog's personality. And to me, that is, that's the most important thing.
So what color is Oliver?
Oliver is an orange dog. He's high strung. He's not a red, but he's an orange dog. But he'll eventually be an orange, like leading to yellow, and maybe a yellow in certain situations. But the whole point is dogs change, and we talked about this before. A green dog, a dog that's timid or apprehensive, let's say it's a Jack Russell, for example. It's in the house. He's a green dog. But, literally within 1 foot when he walks out that door, all of a sudden, if he's, crazy about chasing rabbits or squirrels or things like that, that dog becomes an orange dog, literally within a foot, by just walking, taking a couple steps out that door. And you want to train your dog. And the reason we wrote this book is because you need to train your dog based upon the color he's giving you at the time, not what your dog's, natural color is. It's what is the color now at the time.
Right.
And that's the idea. That's really the whole point.
Well,
to it.
I want to take a break, but when I come back, I want to go over the colors again, because I remember that, and it's very interesting, and people really should, depending. I have a lot of friends, they deal with not so much the shelters. They do deal with the shelters, but a lot of people are now adopting through fosters, or people that find animals and they happen to be pregnant. So let's take a quick break, and when we come back, let's talk about that. Be right back.
Does your dog itch, scratch, stink, or shed like crazy? come to Dynavite for help.
Order a 90-day supply of Dynavite.
Dynavite for life.
Pick up 2 tubes of Doggo Suds.
Get the 3rd tube free.
Peppermint, tea tree, lavender, Doggo Sud shampoo.
Made with all-natural coconut, jojoba, aloe. Great for healthy skin and soft, shiny coats.
But no itchy, harsh chemicals.
Lather up, rinse away.
Try Doggo Suds. Buy 2, get 1 free.
At Dynavite.com.
DINOVITE.com.
Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
Okay, we're back, everybody, and my guest today is Joe Silverman, and he wrote a book, What Color is Your Dog? And it's very interesting. I mean, we could really actually do that with people, too, but, that might not be...
Exactly.
I don't know, in our own minds, but it's very interesting. Why don't you explain to us?
People have different personalities, yeah.
And so do dogs. So
Exactly.
tell us a little bit about the colors and what people could look for depending, because I think our lifestyle, us, who's going to adopt a dog, and I am very big about, 2 to 3 dogs in a household, if you have the space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you're absolutely, I totally agree. Dogs are social animals, like you said, and they love buddies and things like that. Okay, so the way the color scheme works, and I wrote this book, and it came out in 2009, and about 10 years ago, and the reason I wrote it was because you've got a lot of different factions of trainers that are out there, and and they're throwing different ideas at people and things like that, and the ideas that they're putting it out there are actually good ideas, but they think for some reason those techniques work with every single dog. That's the problem. And you could have people that are more positive only and only clickers. Well, they believe in one way of training. And it's really a mistake to get locked into one style of training, because that style of training is great for certain types of dogs. But when you have a dog that is very, very reactive, has high prey drive, doesn't really care about the treats, you need to have a different type of technique. And the people that are more into using tactile reinforcement, which is petting the dog, using less treats, having some sort of tool to control the dog, whatever, whether it's a halty or a gentle leader or one of my alternative training collars or something like that, or even just a dog's flat collar. But you need to have some way of controlling this dog, because this dog is totally different than the dog. So that's kind of why I wrote this book. So your dog is one of 5 colors: red, orange, yellow, green, or blue. And in the middle is the yellow dog, the mellow yellow. So the closer your dog is to the center of the spectrum, the easier it is to train. So a lot of people that adopt dogs from animal shelters, I think it's important for them to know kind of where they are. Honestly, give them a realistic idea of where they are with their dog, and if they're going to need some work with their dog, because there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, so it's some dogs just need a little more work. And so yellow's in the middle, and then I start moving off to the side, we have an orange dog, which is orange. Orange is near yellow. It's a high-strung dog. It's not a yellow, but it's high-strung. And then we have further off from that, we have the red, which is a very, very high-strung. Front feet are never on the ground, barking, lunging, going crazy. Only about 5% are red, probably 35% are orange. These are animals in animal shelters that are naturally there, okay? Those are the warmer color dogs. And then we go into moving away on the other side, we have green dog, which is going to be timid. They're going to be apprehensive. They're going to be cautious. And then we have the other dog, which is a blue dog, which is afraid of everything. You walk into a house, he runs under a bed. And again, probably 5% or, maybe 2 to 5% are going to be blue. Probably 35% are going to be green. And so the whole point is, you take a green dog and an orange dog, probably 70% of all dogs in animal shelters are showing you either green or orange. The point is those dogs, your dog will change colors if you do things the right way. And if you take the green dog that's timid, if you socialize a dog, if you use positive reinforcement, if you get them around people, from day one, that green dog has every reason to go yellow. If you take the orange dog that's high-strung and crazy and barking and lunging, not like a red, but he's, barking and lunging, but you take him and you start socializing him and you training him humanely with a, some sort of training collar or a halty or head halter. And if you start training the dog and using positive reinforcement, that orange dog has every reason to go yellow. And that's really why I wrote the book. So, and as we talk about training, obviously positive reinforcement is a huge part of what I do. I grew up as a marine mammal trainer at SeaWorld in the 70s and 80s. And, everything we did was done, using positive reinforcement. And using treats are a big part of what we do. People know me know that I use Bill-Jack treats. I feed Bill-Jack food. I've been doing it for 30 years. And a lot of people don't realize that a lot of movie animal trainers in Southern California use those treats as well. So, and there are a lot of different types. So I like to start off using treats to train the dog to do the behavior. But when the dog is trained, we start fading out the treats, okay, and increasing tactile rewards, which is petting the dog. So we might be giving the treat, 90% of the time and 10% tactile reward. Well, then it's 75%, 25%, then 50-50. Then before you know it, it's 75% tactile rewards, 25% Bill-Jack treats, and then get down to like 10%, Bill-Jack treats.
Can you train a dog not to bark? I'm not saying the dog should never bark, but there are some breeds that are barkers, but they're great breeds.
Right, yeah, right, exactly. You can always see, there's different ways to do that. And there are different, redirection can work. People use what's called redirection, and that is basically reward the dog when the dog's not barking, which is fine. But again, if you have a dog that's barking, that's really, really going crazy, again, training tools are important. Head halt, you can use a head halter, you can use a halty, those types of collars. You can use one of my alternative training collars. You can use the dog's flat collar as well, in basically teaching dogs not to bark as well. But it really depends upon the individual dog. But I will tell you that if you're training your dog not to bark, it's barking at another dog, okay? And this is what I teach people in my certification courses, and that is if a dog is barking at another dog and going crazy from 5 feet away, there's nothing you can do aside from abusing this dog that's going to keep the dog from barking, okay? It's not going to happen because he's so reactive. However, if you get your dog on a leash 50 feet away from that dog, guess what? Your dog is less reactive. And so what I start to tell people is whatever type of collar or whatever you're going to use to teach the dog, now if the dog is rational, if you correct the dog, the corrections are minimal, okay? And that's what you want to do. And then eventually start moving forward, a little bit forward. And that's what you want to do. But you don't want to start, dealing with it from 5 or 6 feet away because the dog is irrational. And that's the whole point.
Well, there's some dogs that bark in the house. That's crazy. They just bark at anything. Exactly. They bark when you leave, insecure.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And again, I tell people all the time, it's like you just need to find out, when is the dog, if it's a bad behavior, when does the behavior occur? Does it occur when you're there? Does it occur when you're not there? Does it occur at both times? And so in dealing with a lot of these behavior issues, that's kind of what we do.
I have a little thing that I do when I bring a new animal. I have 2 cats. I'm going to be getting another dog. I have a Maine Coon, the sweetest animal I have ever had. Ever.
Maine Coons are great. Yeah.
And he is very much like a dog. And, since I always had dogs, my cats sit, they stay, they listen to me. But what I do is I bring the animal home, and I was prepared. They wanted me to separate him from the cat that I had, who had just recently lost somebody that she was never alone, which I didn't do. And it was fine. She ran under the bed. But she was a skittish cat anyway in the beginning. And he went under the bed and spent all night with her. But what I did do was I spent some time in the house, and then about a half an hour later, I left for about 10 minutes. And then I came back, and I kept repeating it because when I took him back from the shelter, he cried. He was scared. Mm-hmm. And I said, I'm never going to leave you. And I proved it to him. I will always come back. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something to think about. Most people, they get a dog Friday night. They're home all Friday night, all Saturday, all Sunday. Oh, the puppy, blah, blah, blah. Monday, they go to work, and they come home, and they don't have a couch that they could sit on. And why? Because the dog couldn't figure out where the heck you went, and they freaked out.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely correct. No, you're absolutely correct. I mean, I totally agree with that. That is exactly it, And like I say, I think the big thing is, I think it's important for people to make decisions, when they adopt a dog or bring a puppy in, there's decisions that they need to make. And one of the decisions they need to make is, do I have time, for this animal? Do I have the time? And it's okay to say no. That's what I try to tell people. It's okay to say no. The situation you brought up is a perfect situation. If somebody's going to go and they're going to be gone all day long, it's not going to work. I mean, it's just not going to work unless you take your dog to a dog and dog daycare, which I think dog daycare places are great as well. There are people that do that, and those places have really, really opened up. And as a matter of fact, I teach my dog trainer certification courses at many different dog daycare places. So now when your dog is there at the playing with the other dogs and things like that, they can actually be trained as well.
Do you use a crate? Do you believe in that?
I am a huge fan of crate training, yes. And the bottom line is I tell people from the very beginning that a crate, people look at, and they have a habit of anthropomorphizing. And you know what anthropomorphizing is, I'm sure, but a lot of the public doesn't know. Anthropomorphizing is giving animals human reasons, thinking of human reasons why animals might be happy or not happy. And they put ourselves in the position. And a puppy or a dog is not a human. It is an animal. It is a den animal. They like being in dens. They like being in enclosed areas. It's a sense of security.
Right.
And it can work good. And I'm not saying in all the cases, but for separation anxiety, sometimes it's the best thing because the dog can't go crazy and manifest and start pacing around because it's in a smaller area. So having said that, the first thing I do is I teach people from the very beginning. And as a matter of fact, if you could just Google Joel Silverman crate training, there's a 4-minute demonstration from one of my TV shows that I did on crate training your dog over the course of it's a 4-minute video, start to finish.
And you put a wee pad in there if it was a puppy, or no?
Well, if it's a small crate, if it's an area they're going to be in for a long period of time, a wired crate, yes. If it's a small crate that I don't want the dog to go to the bathroom and I just want it to be, I know I just took the dog out to the bathroom. I want to condition the dog to holding it. I'll actually put the dog in a smaller one, okay? And then for 30 minutes or 45 minutes, he holds it in, take him out. Now he goes outside and goes to the bathroom. So that way we can really condition the dog to holding it in. So there are two types of things that I will do. But what I want to tell the listeners real quick, and that is when you are training your dog with it used in a crate, it's done through positive reinforcement. Do not do it if you think for some reason, if you think it's punishment, it's not punishment. It should be something that's positive reinforcement. You don't put your dog in it to punish the animal. And the first thing we do is we open the crate, we throw a piece of food all the way in the back where the dog can go in, the dog turns around, comes back out. It's a game, and just make it a game. When dog goes in that very first session, you start shutting the door and you're playing gotcha, you put yourself many steps back. And you mentioned just recently, we were talking about the trust. You ruin the trust. So over the course of time, when the dog is comfortable turning around and going, now you can shut the door for 3 or 4 seconds, open the door, give the dog a treat inside the crate, let the dog come out. And then again, here's the game. This is the game we're doing. That's what dog training is, So, hey, we mentioned real quickly, I did mention the Bill Jack treats. And I did want to let the folks know that people that know me, if they come to my website, they do see the Bill Jack logo on there. And I've had a relationship with them for the last 30 years. And I know Bob Kelly, who's the president. I've known him for a long time. Great people. The food is made, here in the United States. It is a premium dog food. It is available at PetSmart and also on Chewy.com as well. And I just tell people, if go to their website, which is BillJack.com, read about the food.
It's the way they heat it, if I remember correctly.
Exactly. It's done through, you have a good memory. Most dog
My
foods
cat, I gave it to my cats. I know it's for dogs, but don't tell anybody.
That's great, yeah. Most if your cat likes it, that's great. Most dog foods are cooked at high heats, and the higher the heat, the more you damage the amino acids, the proteins. And so the art to doing it is to use low heat. And what Bill Jack did is they created in the 70s, in the 70s and 80s, they created this slow cooking mechanism where they're able to cook it at lower temperatures, which keeps the food fresher and just basically less chance of the aminos and the proteins being destroyed. And they do a two-bowl taste test. That's kind of what they do. If you go into like PetSmarts, a lot of times you'll see people and they'll have people that send out there from Bill Jack and they'll just say, hey, try our food against other people's foods. And more times than not, the dog picks the Bill Jack because the Bill Jack tastes the freshness in the food.
And they're nice and small.
They're nice and small. That's what I was going to say. They look different than other types of dog food. People look at it and they're like, yeah, the food looks different. And it's just the way it's done. And the reason it's done that way is because it's cooked in those small batches. So they slow cooked in small batches. That's kind of the thing. And so I just tell people, go to BillJack.com, take a look at their, read for yourself. And then also if you're training your dog using their treats, big deal. That's kind of what I've done, a lot of, and I grew up as a movie animal trainer in Southern California. And I could tell you a lot of movie animal trainers in Southern California
whales
still
like
use
that
the
treat?
Bill Jack treat. Yeah, no, not that I know of. And then I was going to tell people also they have different types of treats. The Little Jacks I really recommend because they're smaller than the regular Bill Jack treats. You can buy get a big pack of them and stuff. So it works out really, really nicely too. So, but they're great group of people. So it's good to be a part of them.
Okay, let's take a break and then we'll talk about travel. Be right back.
It's designerpetsweaters.com. Hand-knitted designer sweaters for your precious pup or cool cat. Beautiful couture patterns for your pets, including custom-knitted formal wear, casual wear, yachting, and even sports-themed. Many designer pet sweaters include feathered tammy hats, top hats, and a lot of sparkle. Each sweater includes leg loops, front paw sleeves, and leash opening. Visit designerpetsweaters.com to order your four-legged fashions today. Large or small, we fit them all. designerpetsweaters.com.
Let's talk pets
Let's talk pets
on Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
We're back, and we want to continue about traveling with our pets, especially, comfort dogs and emotionally support dogs. I did a little research as far as the airlines go. Airlines today have a room where you could actually bring your pet before you board the plane so they could relieve themselves, which I think is great. And
Yeah, most airports have that now.
yeah, and also, because, they're very strict now as far as getting a certificate. From what I read, within 72 hours of your flight, you really need a letter from a doctor. But, with all of that, and now you're on the plane, and it also depends on your animal. And you have to also think when you take that animal, because the animal will be on your lap. It has to at least sit on your lap. What seat are you going to sit at? Whether it's the middle or the ends or by the window, depending, if you have a dog, like you said, that's mellow yellow, that might just sleep the whole time. It wouldn't really matter because it's not like when they go up and down the aisles, the dog's going to do something. But they did say that if you get up, you have to take the dog. So that means if you use the restroom, you got to take the dog with you?
Right, I get, yeah. And the other thing is there are bigger dogs too as well. Kind of the rules are if the dog is big, the dog has to be able to sit in front of you. And so what most people will do is they'll book the bulkhead, which is the front seats for people traveling with larger dogs, so that the dog can sit in front of them. That's kind of what they do. And then for a long time, American Airlines they still have a rule. It's called celebrity pets, and if the animals work in a movie or commercial and it's paid by the commercial company, and they're the ones that contact American and they set everything up, the movie animals actually are able to go in the cabin as well, and they could do the same thing. And my thing is that I travel a lot. I'm on the road every month, and I see a lot of these. I've seen so many more of these dogs now, and I just hope that when people are doing it, it's the real deal. It really is an emotional support dog, and it's not something where somebody just traveled with a dog because they were like, well, I'm just going to travel with my dog and I'm going to have my doctor write a letter
It's not the doctor. It's $75 and online, but they've really nipped that in the bud. But
I hope they did. I hope they really did. I just, because I'm just seeing it so much right now. And because there are certain people that truly, need to have that emotional support. And I respect that. I totally understand that,
No more than 5-hour flights, though. That I read.
Yeah.
But what kind of training do you think? I mean, obviously, it would have to be a friendly dog, even if it's not like a dog that would jump on somebody. I'm not for that at all. But, that if somebody wanted to pet the dog.
My deal is this. For anybody listening to me, I've been traveling with my dog in the cabin since I was like 21 years old, okay? And as I said, because at American Airlines, they had a celebrity dog and, a deal. And actually, Duke, when I did Good Dog You on Animal Planet, he did all the personal appearances with me, and he flew in the cabin with me. So I'm very familiar with flying in the cabin with my dogs. And I flew in the cabin with, like I say, many different types of dogs. People need to realize that when you do that, that is a privilege to do that. And you are totally responsible for your dog. And if your dog bites somebody or even jumps up on a little kid and scares the little kid, that's your responsibility to make sure that doesn't happen. And I just want to let people know that when you are traveling with your dog on a plane in a confined area like that, you're responsible. And a lot of people, this day and age, a lot of people don't want to take the good with the bad. They only want to take the good stuff. And they just need to realize that there's a responsibility that goes into that.
And it might affect the animal. They are enclosed. The air is different. The sounds are different.
Yeah, and then as far as getting your dog ready for something like that, the one thing I tell people is get your dog out and desensitized around people and sounds and going in the car and things like that. The last thing you want to do is take a dog on a plane that has never been in a car before, that has never been around people, that is not in that you got your, whatever, you've got your emotional support certificate.
And what about not drugging, but something?
Well, you got to be really careful with that. I tell people too, and that is most veterinarians will tell you, comes from veterinarians, and that is dogs need to be able to pant. Okay, that's why when you're traveling with your dog, people in cargo, the dogs say dogs go in cargo down below in cargo. The last thing you want to do is give your dog something to make your dog go to sleep, because when your dog goes to sleep, it can't pant. And sometimes they need to pant to cool themselves. And if they can't cool themselves, they can really, really overheat and bad things can happen. So that's why you need to be really, really super careful when you are giving medications when you're traveling, with a dog that can be stressed out.
And what seat do you choose?
Because they need to be able to cool themselves.
Towards the window?
What seat? Yeah, well, what I would do is I was traveling with the dog, and most airlines are going to do this, is they're going to put you in they call the bulkhead. Bulkhead means you're at the front row. So if in the front row there's nobody in front of you, there's a wall in front of you, but there's a little bit more leg room there. And so what will happen normally is they'll take two of the big dogs, for example. If you've got A, B, and C, they'll put one dog in A and one dog in C. And they'll have nobody in B, and they'll keep that seat blocked pretty much for the whole. If that flight's not sold out, that B seat, nobody's going to be there. Okay, if the flight's sold out, some unlucky person is going to end up sitting there. So that's kind of the way it works with a lot of airlines. I mean, and the thing is, I always tell people too, Cheryl, is that check with the airlines all the time, because policies change from month to month. They really do. If you look at their policies now, they're different from what they were a year ago. A lot of the airlines, so. Always check with the airline, even though you flew with your dog and you did this with your dog a year ago. Go online and see if the policies are still the same, because they change from throughout the course of history.
Are you a big proponent of dog parks?
Well, here's my problem with dog parks, and that is I'm not a big fan myself. And I think if people want to go there, I'm not telling people not to go there. I've just seen situations in dog parks. All it takes is one dog, okay? One dog that is just aggressive, and all of a sudden it ruins the dynamics, because he becomes aggressive and it becomes a chain reaction. And all of a sudden he gets dressed with another dog, and I'll bark, that aggression. All of a sudden, literally I've seen within 30 seconds the dynamics change in a dog park, because one person brought a dog there. So all it takes is one person, and I'm not willing to roll the dice on that. And I've just seen so much,
right. Right.
So I just recommend if you want to socialize your dog, there are dog daycare businesses, and I teach my dog training certification courses at a lot of dog daycare businesses across the nation. These are places where dogs can run together. I mean, there's a place in southern Indiana where he does about 150 dogs a day. He's got about 100,
oh my gosh,
like 100 big dogs together, and all of them mellow. Nobody barking, going crazy, keeps everything really mellow. It's a pretty cool setup. And but there are a lot of these places across the nation I would highly recommend, because especially if you're working and things like that, it's a great place for your dog just to spend the day with other dogs.
And most people
like
have
that,
dogs, so I mean, you could even go walking with your friends. If your friend has a dog and they live local, or you could make a play date, you could go to each other's houses and just walk.
Absolutely. Oh, no question. Anything you can do together, with other people, and because dogs love that. What you just mentioned, dogs.
Yeah, they like to socialize, and that's going to be good for your 15-year-old dog. Eventually, he's going to like having Oliver, because hey, when nobody's home, he's going to have his own buddy. So,
yeah, exactly.
And maybe he'll even take on some of his personality.
Right. Exactly.
They're amazing animals. I think the way we treat animals today, some of us, there's sucky people all over, but they really are more considered family members. Really, to even adopt an animal today, they really want you to be either working part-time or home or somebody in the house. Nobody wants the dog left alone, even a cat.
Exactly. No, well, I live in Reno, Nevada, and I have a relationship with the Nevada Humane Society and the SPCA of Northern Nevada, and I've done my certification courses at the places, and I've shot my TV shows there at both those places. And I will tell you that they are very, very serious when somebody's interested in a dog, and they do all the paperwork. They find out what's there right now, and then before they adopt the dog, they actually bring the dog in, the existing dog that they have. They bring it there and they let them mix. They see how they are, and in a neutral area at the Humane Society before they release that dog, which I think is really, really smart.
Yeah, because you don't want them to go back. I mean,
no, exactly.
Owner surrenders are, to me, heartbreaking. I mean,
yeah,
it's always heartbreaking. I mean, if they're on the street and they were astray, but for somebody to bring their animal back in, I think it takes time. I don't think a week. I don't think 2 weeks. I've had friends who've adopted dogs. It took months till they became themselves.
You just said it right. The thing is, I've seen situations where it only takes a couple days. I've also seen times where it takes 6 months, So what you just said is absolutely correct. Don't hang your hat on a time limit. That's my big point to everybody. Whether you're training your dog to sit, to stay, to lie down, all these behaviors or socializing or everything we just talked about today, every situation is different, and it depends on the dynamics of the dog you're working with, or if you're introducing dogs, the dynamics of the two dogs that are going to be, living together, because it's different. But to me, that's what makes it so fun.
So now your new one, how is it going with the stay, no, roll over? Well, roll over is really not.
Well, he's only 12 weeks old. I've had him for 2 weeks, and I started, as a trainer to go to a place. A lot of people know my style of training. I train dogs to go to a place in elevated areas. So we work off that. Into his treats. He likes his treats and everything.
What do you mean elevated areas? Like transcendental meditation?
Elevated areas. No, I like to teach dogs on something elevated. It could be their dog bed. It could be actually a platform that's maybe 6 inches high that they can jump up on, but something they can jump up on this defined place. If you can do that, you can start working the stay behavior a lot quicker. You can get the dog to sit a lot quicker because the dog's not on flat ground. If the dog is on flat ground, it's very easy for the dog to cheat and start coming towards you. But if he's on something elevated, it's a defined place. So if he jumps off, what do? Just guide the dog back up again and have him stay there, and eventually let him figure out, hey, if I stay here, I get rewarded. If I jump off, he's just going to guide me back up again. So I may as well just, stay up on this elevated area.
That really is a very good idea. There's a graphic running around. I think it's been around for a while. Is like an older dog is looking at a young dog and says, take it slow. Act like you didn't learn it because they give you lots of treats. Take your time. You'll get more treats. Don't learn right away. You ruin it for the rest of us.
No, you're absolutely correct. And then, like I say, the thing is we use, positive reinforcement for that. So I'll use Bill Jack treats to train, the puppy on, guide the dog up there on the elevated area, and reward the dog there. Always walking and rewarding the dog for staying. If you treat your dog to stay, constantly walk in and reward. Don't call your dog to you. If you call your dog to you and reward him, why is your dog going to want to stay? So walk to your dog and reward him for staying. If you want to call your dog to you for the recall, you can call him to you, which is fine. But always make sure if that's all you do and you never walk in and reward your dog for staying, he's never going to want to stay. So always walk in and reward your dog for staying. We always teach people that as well. And then again, we use the Bill Jack treats to train.
I'm a little mixed up. Say that again for the stay and come. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, for the stay behavior, what I see a lot of people do, and I've been saying this for years, for decades, and that is, you tell people, they say, I can't get my dog to stay, and they step back like 10 feet, and the dog stays for 10 seconds, which is great. And then they call the dog and they reward the dog, to call the dog to them. And the truth is, you're actually rewarding your dog for coming to you. You're not rewarding your dog for staying. So in order to reward your dog for staying, you need to walk to your dog and reward your dog for staying. And that way you keep that stay behavior up. But you can call your dog to you, which is great. That's the recall, which is fine. But my suggestion is if you're stepping back 20 feet from the dog, okay, you step out 20 feet, 3 out of 10 times I would call my dog to me. 7 out of 10 times I would walk in and reward my dog for staying. If you do that, your dog has every reason to want to stay there. If you call your dog to you 9 out of 10 times and you walk in 1 out of 10 times, reward your dog for staying, you're going to get a breakdown of that behavior. Your dog's not going to want to stay.
Right. And stay is very important. Stay, stop, settle.
Stay is very important. And as a movie animal trainer, that's what we do, because we step back. We've got to step back 30, 40 feet away. Dogs have to do behaviors from, far away, and we need to be able to have that control. And that's why I'm so much into working, distance and things like that.
Yeah, there's some animals that love going for a ride in the car, and there's some animals that don't. It makes them sick.
Exactly. They're all different. So
wonderful. All right. Well,
yeah.
I'll tell you, we picked up a lot of different things, and I'll be in touch because I'm going to get a medium-sized dog. I'm not the
please
days
do
of
that.
me
Please
getting
do that. And maybe,
an old, big dog. Or I had a standard poodle and a tricolor collie. The poodle was a handful. I'd get another poodle again.
When you do that and you're working with your dog and you're, just as you're doing the training, we'll do another interview, and it'd be great to have you, kind of ask me some questions as you're going along with the dog, and hopefully I can help you that way, and hopefully the listeners can.
Maybe I could you could help me because I haven't done that in a while.
Exactly.
But I'm an alpha. I'm definitely into animals behave. My cats don't even go on. They only go on my bed and one chair. They don't go on counters. They don't go on the couch. I'm just not into that.
Yep.
And I guess
No, I agree.
And like animals today, everybody gets these beds for the animals too. And little animals, they get steps to go up on the bed or up on the couch because of their hips or their little legs.
Exactly. Well, I tell people, what I tell people, Cheryl, is whatever works for them. If that's what's going to have a better relationship with you and your dog, whatever it takes, because I'm, you're your way, I'm my way. And that's what makes us all unique. And the chemistry between the person and the animal is what makes it so special. And there's nothing, I tell people all the time, with the amount of people that are out there abusing animals, whatever you're doing to develop a better relationship with your dog, that's what you should do.
That's true.
Period.
Because we're all different, and so are the animals, and everybody comes with baggage, and especially with, dogs in shelters. We don't know, When I got my Maine Coon, I was told one story, and then over the years, I've been going back there, whether to drop off towels or for whatever, and now I know more stories, which is that somebody let this cat out and they found it. It wasn't that somebody surrendered it because, it didn't get along with the dogs, because I've had friends come over with a dog and the cat's fine. First of all, he was bigger than the dog. So, these Maine Coons, he's about 28, 29 pounds. He's an impressive size and very, very smart. But the one thing about them is they're very, very sweet. If I was ever going to get another cat, I'd get another Maine Coon. They have just very unique. They're like a dog. Very, very gentle.
Yeah, they're real laid back. Very laid back. Yeah.
Well, it was wonderful talking with you today, and I will we will do another show while I'm training. I appreciate all of the knowledge.
Well, thank you so much, Cheryl. I really appreciate it. And as I said to everybody, if they could just, if you have information, you can go to joelsilverman.net. Information on BillJack, go to billjack.com. And most importantly, just read about the difference in BillJack. That's what I tell people all the time. It's like, don't take my word for it. Just read about the difference. And I think that'll hopefully help them out a little bit.
And also, if you are going to adopt a pet, do your research. If, there's some animals that need a lot of exercise. If you're a lazy person or an older person and you're not going to do that, don't get that kind of a dog, because the dog will be miserable. And so will you.
And so will you. Exactly.
You'll have no house. They'll chew everything. Well, I want to thank Joel for being a guest.
Well, Cheryl, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And I want to tell everybody to live life unleashed. I want to thank Mark, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.